my melanin is popping.
I'll tell you right now, I love my melanin.
There's actually 50 shades of melanin.
Legalize it. Yeah. Melanin.
No appropriation. Highly melanated. No appropriation. Stick to your own culture. 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 Highly melanated. Highly melanated.
No melanated.
Highly melanated. No Mayochella. No Mayochella. No Mayochella. No Mayochella.
Wash your chicken.
Melanated. Highly melanated. Highly melanated. Red, I can't stand you. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I try to say stuff serious and I just can't do it. I'm like, fuck it.
All right. Hey guys. Welcome back to another episode of
Highly
Melanated. One more time again, Blair.
What?
You were like highly melanated.
I said highly melanated. Play it back and you'll hear it.
PJ Halo here.
Yushi 6-inch heels here.
Hot sauce in my bag. Swag. Red. I put this shit on everything.
He's so proud of himself. And Blair Ring the Alarm is here.
And the gang is here, and we're here for another episode of Highly Melanated, where we melanate your palate and feed your soul. We trying to give you some of that good food, some of that home cooking, some of that good Negro food.
With the flavors and the seasonings.
With that Lawry's season.
Not the Lawry's.
Only Lawry's.
All of the Lawry's.
And a little bit of adobo.
We were an Old Bay family.
Sazon.
I'm with you, Obey. Yes. Sazon, Obey, Lowry's, adobo.
Right. All right, guys. Well, there. Thank you for taking time. Why did I fast forward to the end?
Thank you for coming, guys.
All right, thank you and good night.
Thank you. Come again.
As always, guys, you can follow us on social media. That's Highly Melanated Podcast. On Instagram, you can follow us on Twitter. That's H_melanated pod. You can also email us any questions, comments, and concerns at highlymelanatedpodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on SoundCloud, leave a comment. If you listen on iTunes, just hit, star rating. Start writing some ratings in there. We would love to hear your ratings. We've been getting good ones in there so far. If you actually took a look, you can actually see, it's actually moving.
Good evening. This is Jeeves. And I'm just coming on I'm back from my vacation, and I missed you guys.
Jeez, where did you go on vacation?
To work.
Oh, that doesn't sound like a vacation.
That doesn't sound like fun at all, but I was there. But now I'm back.
Yes, because you were booked.
I was booked.
And busy.
And I don't know of another B word, so we'll just... But I would like to go around and see if anybody would like to do a toast. And see if anybody had any shout-outs. Before we even do that, our special for today is cultural appropriation.
That's our key word.
Would you guys like to have any type of drinks or toast? Yushida, would you like a drink?
Yes, Yushi would. Yushi 6-inch heels step to the bar. I would like to have, I want a Bronx Mai Tai. I know it's a thing. We're going to make it up because Shout out to Cardi B and her red camp Met Gala dress that she came through in motherfucking night, as well as Billy Porter with his Egyptian look with the gold wings. Oh my God! What did the dude on Beyonce track say? Bitch, I came to slay. That's exactly what they did. Okay, because Hunty, they shut that red carpet down. I mean, Gaga was cute, but yeah, Billy Porter and Cardi.
Yes, kudos to them, Miss Cardi B and Billy Porter.
Yes, Pose is coming back soon, y'all.
It is. They're
And what
already
is your-
filming it right now.
Absolutely, Bronx Mai Tai for you, milady.
Thank you. It's good.
I have one.
Of course.
Actually, this is a round of drinks.
Round.
A whole entire round.
That'd be $4,000.
Nothing but
just-
top shelf.
Right.
Just please put it on the check and then just, leave us.
Put it on his tab over there. That guy.
Yeah, that rich white guy right
in
there.
the black shirt.
With the American
And the black
black
shirt.
card.
Oh my God! So this past weekend, well, first let me say I want to give a toast of let's bring it back in the old day. Let me get a round of Cristal.
Cristal.
Do they even still drink that?
Cristal or
I
Cristal?
wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
They're gonna upgrade it to Ace of Spades now.
Okay. Yeah. Let me get a toast of Cristal and some Moet.
Absolutely, sir.
And I want to give a shout out to the entire team. This weekend, we participated in the AT&T Create-a-thon, where you are told to create a short film within 48 hours. And I want to give a shout out to my team, just the whole entire team of the short that we produced, the manual. It was just really, really awesome to actually be able to DP and also for those of you who aren't in entertainment or into filmmaking, DP is the director of photography, as well as co-writing the actual short that we created, which was pretty damn awesome, and we really got it done. And it came out really good. We were telling the story of what it was like for a white person to come into a whole environment, a whole office full of black folk, and then the white person was trying so hard to be, quote unquote, air quotations down, that he was just stepping over everything. And we kept it funny, we loved it, and
It was great.
And the actual audience actually loved it too as we were doing it. So I just want to give a toast and a shout out to us all because we actually got it done. So yeah.
Shout out.
Amazing.
Claps.
Amazing. Miss Blair.
Jeeves, do you have a toast?
Do I have a toast?
I don't know. No one ever asked Jeeves.
No one ever asked.
Because it's not for Jeeves to have a toast. I want Red to toast. Jeeves is working.
Oh, sorry,
He already
I
came
forgot.
back from his vacation. He
No.
needs no toast.
Don't take away my shine, please. I do have a toast. First of all, I'm working, so I'll have a water,
Seltzer water.
sparkling.
Sparkling water.
But I would like to give a shout out to my friend. His Instagram name is hi. My name is Marlon. He is a friend of mine who does a lot of fitness and coaching and strength coach. He does a lot of endurance, helping out endurance athletes. So you can follow him on his Instagram and his business Instagram, which is at lean.strong.fast. And he recently found out that I did a podcast, and he was just catching up. So he said that he would actually go and follow and listen. So thank you for that, Marlon.
Yes. Shout out, Marlon. So let's get into this appetizer. As you guys know, the appetizer is our melanated senses, and that's where we like to highlight the things that we have seen, tasted, smelled, heard, or touched throughout the week that was highly melanated. Does anybody have a melanated sense they'd like to serve up as an appetizer?
Well, as usual, I guess I'll start this one. I would like to give my melanated shout out to actually, even though we did not win for the AT&T Create-a-thon, it was down to 3 finalists, and the two number one went to shout out to you, Tamala Baldwin, for that beautiful piece. It's called "Without You." She's also a creator of a new web series that's coming out pretty soon. I'll be sharing the information going forward once we get more information in reference to the release party for that, because she and I will be working together on some projects. So I told her I would, we support. That's what we do here. And it was a beautiful piece. And then I want to give another melanated sense. Well, it's the same one, to Justin Jerkins, who actually won for Ghosted, which actually was really good. It was really funny. People sitting around the table, like in his room, like they're getting therapy, talking about how they've been ghosted. And it was actually hilarious. So I just want to give a melanated sense just to the fact that the two top were just beautiful brown black faces, and we just actually overtook the whole entire event because there was so many black filmmakers and creators in the room. So it was just awesome. It's just it's revitalizing when you see that and when you feel that energy. So yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
No, for real, it was so good. So shout out to you, Toast Melanated Senses, because I love my black people.
Yeah. My melanated sense is the sense of sight. This past weekend, I went home and spent the weekend in Detroit, which was just amazing. It felt so good to be home. And it was for one of my best friends for her birthday party. And so she rented out like this, cute little loft venue, and we decorated it, and we had like just a big old party. And I say it's the sense of sight because you can't go to Detroit. It's not a Detroit party until somebody turns on the mixed music. So that's the sense of like hearing. But really, like when you turn on mixed music, you also have to jit. And y'all are looking at me like y'all don't know what jitting is. So
I was like, how
I know
dare
what
you
jitney
me with
is.
such words.
no, not
I
a
know jitney's a
jitney,
play.
not a jitney, a jit, a Detroit jit, J-I-T. So basically, it's like when people like, if you ever heard like, "Let me see your footwork, let me see your footwork." It's basically that, like when people like show out like footwork, like style, like Detroit style. So finally, at one point throughout the night, the DJ started putting on Detroit mixed music, and everybody in the room started jitting, and I was just like, "Damn, it feels good to be home."
FYI, guys, on the Instagram, Blair is going to show us an example of what jitting is.
Sure.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, I'm not going to do it. Y'all ain't ready. But I'll show you what it looks like. Sure.
Okay, fine.
Because don't forget, I grew up in Ypsilanti.
I can't. Did you have something, Yoshida?
Yeah, but if you
She
have
goes
one,
last.
please share.
Oh, okay. I had quite a few because I've had such a busy past couple of weeks.
Yeah, we haven't seen you in for a while, so
Booked and busy.
So, well, for this past weekend, I actually took some time and I actually spent with my dad. So I guess there's the sense of feeling because I don't, we grow up, being adults and just running around adulting. And I feel like I've just really been running around nonstop. So I took my dad out to get some seafood. And I did that, and we just had like a really good time. Just had a nice big old seafood boil with crab and shrimp and potatoes and corn and sausage and Louisiana sauce and fries. So did that, and then we just kind of like just was able to just kind of catch up and just spend some time with each other because we don't get to do that anymore.
Now I'm very hungry.
Okay, you don't see. I'm looking at him, and I'm like
Sorry.
slowly
I'd like a crab boil. Where are we going after
But
this?
that sounds awesome.
Yushi, would you like to share your melanated sense with the group?
And my melanated moment is just all the senses heightened and elevated. So shout out to the creators and writers of American Gods for casting the African gods as actual black-skinned, black-faced people. Bilquis, Ibis, Anubis.
Yes, Bilquis.
That show is effing amazing.
It's about time. Yeah.
It's friggin' great, and it's glad, and I'm just so happy to see that they casted the people of the Nile as actual people of the Nile and not the conquerors or the invaders per se.
You know, and I think they picked up on all the flack that they got for the last season because there were I think 3 guys that they chose that were of African. They were supposed to be African guys, but they were clearly white people. Mm. So, shout out to them for listening. Go ahead, continue.
Absolutely. So there was a part in there where Anubis drops like this deep ass line. I'm just gonna go ahead and just let you guys hear it. Yeah. So here it goes.
This is a coroner's office?
Coroners are a political appointment around here. His job is to kick the corpse. If it doesn't kick him back, he signs a death certificate. I'm what they call a pro sector. I work for the county medical examiner. I do autopsies and save tissue samples for analysis. In addition, we are a funeral parlor serving Cairo, Illinois since 1863, when it was a flourishing town at the crossing of 2 rivers. We go back much longer than that, of course. But it wasn't until the war between the states that we found our niche. That was when we became the funeral parlor for the colored folks hereabouts. Before that, no one thought of us as colored. Foreign, maybe, exotic and dark, but not colored. And it's strange when they talk about African Americans. My colleagues and I never thought of ourselves as African. We were the people of the Nile.
That was some deep shit. And let me tell you something. Orlando Jones is the fucking GOAT. He plays Mr. Anansi, aka the Anansi, and a lot of people from Africa and Jamaica are familiar with the Anansi. That's like the spider deity or whatnot. But let me tell you something. He needs his own spinoff because he was on the boat as there were a boat, a slave ship full of melanated people coming from Africa to what white folks consider to be the New World, which is not the New World, but different story for a different day. And he begins to give them this speech about what's going to happen once they get to the New World, and as their offspring begin to, grow and multiply. And what he said was just so amazing. I literally watched it like 10 times. So I'm going to go ahead, hit y'all with that clip, knock your brain off. I don't even know what to say. Here it goes.
Okay.
Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, a man got fucked. That's the story of black people in America. Shit, you all don't know you black yet. You think you just people. Let me be the first to tell you that you are all black. The moment these Dutch motherfuckers set foot here and decided they white, and you get to be black, and that's the nice name they call you, let me paint a picture of what's waiting for you on the shore. You arrive in America, land of opportunity, milk and honey, and guess what? You all get to be slaves, split up, sold off, and worked to death. The lucky ones get Sunday off to sleep and fuck and make more slaves and all for what? For cotton, indigo, for a fucking purple shirt. The only good news is the tobacco your grandkids are gonna farm for free is gonna give a shitload of these white motherfuckers cancer. And I ain't even started yet. 100 years later, you're fucked. 100 years after that, fucked. 100 years after you get free, you still getting fucked out of job and shot at by police. You see what I'm saying? This guy gets it. I like him. He's getting angry. Angry is good.
let me just say, after hearing this again, it's just like, damn, that was some shit. Because right after he tells them that, they literally break all their chains, go upstairs, and just burn the whole fucking boat down. They like, fuck this, just burn the whole shit. Y'all just gotta watch the show. It's frigging amazing. So we're gonna move into our meal, and you know what's funny? I actually was gonna take out some leftovers of like some orange garlic grilled chicken, but I'm gonna put that back in the refrigerator because I done changed my mind. Red done got me hyped and souped, and I done went outside and I done put on some low country brawl. So we just gonna go ahead and have us a seafood brawl.
Yes.
And just recreate that meal that he had with his father.
Yes, please.
And that's just what we gonna do. And we gonna keep it moving.
Well, all right.
I'm starving.
All right, so I'm just gonna take some. Can I make a sandwich with that?
You can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Just put the crab right in between.
Put the crab right in tea and just put a big old slab of mayonnaise on it.
Ew.
I mean,
Just all
I
over
like
it.
mayonnaise.
If that's
I don't
what
care
you
y'all
like.
say. Mayonnaise is good.
I like Hellman's mayonnaise. I don't like Miracle Whip, and I think we've had this conversation
Yeah, we
before.
have.
Miracle Whip
Else
is
but
disgusting.
Hellman's mayonnaise.
Cool Whip.
Nothing exists outside of that.
Yeah, so we'll use a big old slab of Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Whip.
That's
Cool
disgusting.
Whip.
That is for ice cream.
That's for dessert. That's later.
Cool Whip.
So we're just gonna shift gears here, guys. As it's been a while again since we've actually had a conversation without a guest. So sometimes it takes us a little bit to get like reacclimated to just like us.
Okay, so now that we are all sitting at the table and we're ready to eat, let's get into this. So a lot has been talked about lately about, there's been a lot of comparisons, let's say, between the recent Taylor Swift, the Billboard Music Awards performance and where she performed her latest single, Me. And a lot of people are talking about how similar, we'll use the word similar to a more iconic performance by Miss Beyonce Knowles herself.
Iconic.
So
For
that
Baychella,
just
that is.
made us really want to think about cultural appropriation in the sense of how we kind of just can't have nothing. So let's talk about it.
So I mean, like, all right, I'll even start off this conversation. I think my question to everybody would be, what is the cutoff point in terms of like what can be culturally appropriated or not? You know, I will play devil's advocate because I think then if that's the case, then no one can ever do anything ever again.
Bruh, you and I are on such the same accord because I was thinking
Are you hungry too?
the exact same thing.
Because I'm like, then we
like-
soulmates.
Because here's the thing. I know, well, there's 5 sides to like every story. I feel like, was it smart for her team to put together the production for this performance? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, was it a smart move? No, because everybody's going to see this and immediately everybody's just going to think Beyonce because she did it first and she did it best. So everybody's going to think that. But I don't think it's necessarily fair. And again, this is me playing devil's advocate. I don't think it's fair for us to say that she's culturally appropriating her or the black culture because, like Red said, at that point, well, where's the cutoff? Can nobody ever have a marching band in their performance ever again? Like, where do we, like, I guess I want to know, like, what the real issue is that people have with it. Are they mad because they think that she copied Beyonce, or are they mad because they don't think that she should have had the whole marching band performance?
So I think, and I'll chime in here because I'll admit I kind of wanted to talk about this, but not just about the whole Beyonce situation, but just really about the idea of soon as we do something great, we do something phenomenal, they don't even wait too much longer before they try to jump in and say that they did it or they've been doing it for years or, come in and steal it. Now, granted, yes, obviously she should have. That was a poor decision to do it.
was
Like,
just dumb.
I mean, like right afterwards. I mean, in like the whole. I mean, and not even to say that she, her argument was that they've been doing this for a long time. They,
How long?
She said that they.
Beyonce was working on her performance for what, a year before
Right, okay.
Mayochella?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you've been working on this for the BBAs for 2 years?
Yeah,
Taylor?
That's exactly what her argument was. And come on, like obviously, as soon as it airs, the first thing you're going to look at is Beyonce. But the idea of it, of the actual, and being of a person who is of a Greek letter organization, that's what made me appreciate Beyonce's her version. Listen to me, but that's what made me appreciate her performance more, and understanding. Now, I never went to a HBCU, but at the same time, that seeing that made me realize and made me understand more of the black experience I wish I had. Just the same way she said she wished she had it in the documentary. But not even long after, it just comes in and just try to just snatch all the credit, like nobody else is gonna ever think anybody
But did
else
she
did
try
it.
to snatch the credit though? Like what did she do to snatch credit?
And to kind of also add to that, what is the time frame and cutoff point as to when people can do stuff? Like, because it's so immediate and because social media has such an impact on just our everyday lives, we can see things immediately, right? So we can sit down and we can compare and contrast and go, oh my goodness. So from a marketing standpoint, or a PR standpoint, I can see why it was such a poor decision. But there's no time frame as to like when you can do or when you can't do certain things.
I actually want to say this. If you're not a Taylor Swift fan and you watch it, you're automatically going to think that, and you're not wrong for thinking that, because the entrance did look like when B came down the pyramid, because she did it the right way with the band in between her. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely going to take a look like that. Where it gets to be this line that's being crossed is, for example, Adele. Adele expresses this high level of love, adoration, and support for Beyonce, but she does it the right way. And Adele has performed Beyonce songs at her shows. She tried to do the dances, and she'd be like, oh my God, I can't see how she do this. She's amazing. She's the queen. She gives up the respect and the due where it's belong. Taylor, on the other hand, saw an opportunity to be able to say, you know what, I can do this in my own way. But what she didn't understand is that Beyonce is the queen. She's like one of the best performers of our time. And she's up there to the point where anything you do that's similar, you're going to be looked at through a microscope. And it's going to be like, well, why did you do that? Why did you have to be the one to do this so soon at the opening of the Billboard, which is a huge deal, because that's that's like a huge deal, like type of show. It's the Billboard Awards. So for me, it's like, it's a certain way in which you go about doing it. And it would have been better for me if she would have been like, you know what? I love the Mayochella, because if you watch the awards, Taylor Swift is dancing and singing to everybody's music. She's a fan to other artists. If she'd have just been like, you know what? I watched it. I love what she did. And I wanted to just try something my own way, it would have been different. But
See, and this is
she tried to not say that.
And this is the example I mean about cultural appropriation itself. Like, when people don't give credit to where credit is due, especially if you're doing things of another, culture. Not to say that there are like Ohio State is a because you use an Ohio State band, right? Blair just rolls her eyes because she's go blue.
Ohio State.
Shout out to all you Ohio State fans, because you don't want to make Blair mad. Okay, she just got mad at me.
So rude.
But what I'm saying,
Shout out to all the Michigan alums. Go blue.
She just. But the point I'm trying to make, or the point that it made me feel, and I agree. I agree with both of you to an extent. I obviously there's this conversation about what cultural appropriation is. There's this conversation about and what I would love for us to have in depth.
So
wait,
go ahead.
So I mean, it comes in so many different forms. I constantly say, and I will never change my mind about this. When it comes to music, specifically, I teeter on that line of paying homage and what is actual cultural appropriation as far as like black music versus quote unquote air quotations white music. I teeter on that line. There are moments where it's like, okay, and there are moments where it's like, like this is like part two of the conversation we were having about Motown. So it teeters on that, if that makes any sense.
So here's my thoughts on just, like, really, what are we defining cultural appropriation as? Like, what is the definition of cultural appropriation? Let's start there, because I think that we're talking about anytime you see somebody do something that has been synonymous with a specific culture, and you see somebody who doesn't look like that race or look like that ethnicity do the same thing, everybody's so quick to claim cultural appropriation. But I think that that's kind of where we need to dig in a little more, is what exactly is cultural appropriation?
Well, the definition here in Merriam's dictionary is the unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of the customs, practices, and ideas, etc., of one people or society by members of another, and typically a more dominant or prominent society.
So I think the key word there
AKA
is
the Kardashians.
unacknowledging.
Yes, this is what I'm
Unacknowledging.
saying.
So that goes back to what Yushi was saying before. Like, Yushi, you were saying you would have felt differently about Taylor Swift's performance had she said, I was so inspired by Beyonce that I wanted to try to, perform something
and
that was...
That's why I'm saying I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But is
it's
that
obvious
her...
that because it's obvious at the awards, if you look at her, she's dancing and singing everybody's music. So obviously she's a fan. Just do what Adele did and just give homage. And,
I mean, but also this is not the first time that she's caught flack for that. Like she did that with the song. I'm not a White Devil fan.
oh my God!
What?
Okay, I'm sorry.
What? I'm sorry. Okay, let's dig into that. Why is she the White Devil? Why
not
is
the
why
White
is
Devil,
she
she's
a
a
White
White
Devil?
Devil.
Why?
I think that comes from, what was that movie with
Right.
with
was about to
Eddie
say.
Griffith? Remember
Yeah.
the movie with Eddie Griffith, and it was the white lady, and she was the devil because she was like giving him mayonnaise. Remember that movie? No, really?
It's slowly coming to me. There's only about a few movies that Eddie Griffith was in.
Undercover Brother.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
After that whole Well, before that, it was a thing, but
But why is Taylor Swift a White Devil to you?
She uses her privilege to get away with everything, to do so much against the culture, the music, the ideas, the dance routines, this and that, whatever.
that's how I felt about Ariana.
Yeah, and Ariana's not even Hispanic. Ariana's she's of Latin descent, but from Spain.
I thought this was Italian.
Yeah, it's Italy.
So wait, can I just...
Spain. No.
So is the caveat for any time anybody wants to do something that they feel inspired by musically, artistically, or whatever, I guess what I'm hearing is the caveat is in order for them to do that and for people to not feel some type of way about it is that they have to basically cite their sources.
Not even just cite their sources, but just as you were saying, give acknowledgement. Because look, back in the day, Janet Jackson used with the Runaway song, she said specifically, "I love the Asian culture, so I wanted to like respect and do this." And then she got a lot of flack for doing it, but she at least acknowledged the fact of where it came from. She's not Asian. She didn't bring it up. Bruno Mars, he's not black, but he's singing all this, and see. Now had and see, this is one of those other things. Like, had Bruno Mars been the one who did the daggone Motown tribute, it would have been a closer situation because he sings that type of music versus Jennifer Lopez.
But like Barry Gordy said, I want to make music for everyone.
So I was Googling earlier today and going back and things that actually Barry did say from back in the day. And his thing was that black music wasn't getting played on the radio. So what he did was create that to have black music, his words, black music cross over to be made for everyone.
Right.
Which is great.
Right.
So in order, and this goes back to the conversation because I would have loved to go deeper in it, but we had a guest. Because there are, as I was saying, I was about to scroll down my whole entire Spotify list. You got artists like Lettucey, India Irie, Faith Evans, anybody else. It just there are so many black artists that actually can fill that as opposed to J-Lo. And now again, I'm not, she did her things.
But you're just saying that because she's not black.
Yeah.
But see, then that's a whole nother conversation because then when you start saying that, then we're talking about the Spanish audience. And
A lot of them are black. Yes, because because well, the Spanish culture. There's the Taino tribe that actually comes from Africa. I get that, but at the same time, there are many Puerto Ricans that I know that were like, why did she even do that? Because that makes no sense. It made no sense for her to be there, because that is not even the close of the culture type of music that she even does. Like, she has never put out a song that's anything similar to any Motown song. Period. Go down her discography. I'm a huge J-Lo fan. Nothing she's ever done has anything similar. So that's not her culture. That's not what she's putting out there.
Don't be confused by the rocks that I got.
No, that's not culture.
I'm still Jenny from the block.
Well, Jenny she's not from the block where Hitsville was.
So what about Kelly Clarkson singing it? Like, what makes it different? Because Kelly Clarkson has a great voice.
No, that doesn't. No.
But
I mean,
what if Kid Rock sang it? He's from Detroit.
Go ahead.
Cool. Never mind.
No. Go
I was like, Kid Rock's from Detroit, so why couldn't he do it?
This is the whole conversation where I've always talked about like how it teeters, because Justin Timberlake is from Memphis, Tennessee.
He's from Tennessee.
You know, and everybody's like,
so he could do it, right?
I said but what does he do when he does music? What is his music actually? He sings that music. Mm-hmm. It's in his culture. It's where he was raised.
I feel like.
I just wanted to say, like, just to kind of play devil's advocate,
No, tell your feelings, nigga.
No, I mean, it is devil's advocate, and part of it is my feelings. But no, seriously, like, you're going to say that I guess everybody has to come up there and outright say, this is where I got my music from.
You have to cite your sources.
Right.
But I'm not saying cite your... I'm not saying that.
But you are.
I'm not saying specifically cite your sources like all of a sudden.
Give homage to the ones that came before you.
This is like the whole beef that with the whole Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. Oh, it was the Nicki Minaj beef and Lil' Kim. The whole beef because she didn't pay her homage, whatever. But that's not a whole other conversation. What I'm saying is cite your sources. So what I'm saying is that you don't have to sit here and say, I took this from Baychella. This is her idea. But say... Okay.
But why should
But
she?
say what? Say what? No, what should she have said?
Yeah, why should
what should she have said it? Finish your thought.
I mean, but say in the sense of not saying that I stole this from her, but I was inspired.
But isn't that still citing your sources?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it is. That's why I got quiet for half a second.
And I'm saying, so what I was saying was, like, what it sounds like to me is what you guys are saying is, in order for somebody to do something, like I said, so Taylor Swift is not black. Mm-hmm. You know, she didn't go to a HBCU. If she's going to use that kind of inspiration and put that in her performance, she has to say, like, where she got it from, basically.
No, but it wasn't an HBCU inspiration. It's just people are citing that the way that she came out with the band being on each sides. It wasn't the HBCU part of it. Excuse me. It was because the band was on both sides and she came out the middle.
But is that
and it was a pink theme, so that's what people.
So people are saying that she more or less ripped off Beyonce, right?
I mean,
that's
like I said,
general idea.
I don't necessarily agree, but I'm just saying that that's what the imagery of her coming out with the band on both sides, and they were in pink. And she comes out and pauses.
Because if we really want to get down to like the nitty gritty of it, Beyonce didn't invent it either.
No, she didn't. No. So no one says that she invented it as well, but no one's not. This isn't the first time that she's used marching bands in her.
Would Taylor Swift have had to credit Beyonce for it, or could she have credited, an HBCU for it?
She could have at least.
But what you're saying is like she needed to credit somebody.
She could have at least, because number one, she's already been accused in the past of actually stealing Beyonce's things in general with that song. Look What You Made Me Do. It's a song where she got in trouble for the formation line that she created. And she already know that people, common sense, oh God, this is, you know what, I love this, but this was either she could have mentioned that, she was inspired by it, or she could have mentioned that this is also something from her, like make it sound, I don't know, just something, because you knew that this was going to be a reaction. This is also pretty much why I also say that she's the devil, because she, in the sense, is all she wants to do is have people talk about her so she can move up for closer. the point of this conversation, I didn't want to focus it completely on just her because, I mean, this conversation in general is something that we have been dealing with for generations and decades and decades and decades. I mean, the interview that Yushi was just talking about earlier, which was the Ray Charles interview, this dates back to what he was saying about Elvis when Elvis stole, our music. And
yes,
there was the same argument back then. This is something that has been going on for years.
Nobody appreciates more different kinds of music than you. That's obvious. But did you feel at the time, in the 50s, early 60s, a resentment of some of the white performers who were copying R&B stuff and selling more records than you and your contemporaries were?
I just didn't object to it. I just felt that the music it wasn't that good to care about. Now, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But I mean,
maybe some exceptions, though. I mean, Elvis was a talented guy.
Well, okay.
Not necessarily. You know better than I.
Yeah.
Let me ask it differently. How good was Elvis?
What Elvis did, he caused a lot of the populace, if you want to, and usually when people say populace, they usually mean white people, to start listening to a lot of music that normally they wouldn't have been listening to. I guess I'm going to lose at least about a third of my fans right now. But to say that Elvis was so great and so outstanding, like they say, he's the king. I got in trouble because one guy asked me this question, and I said the king of what, and he got mad at me. You see, I don't think of Elvis like that because I know too many artists that are far greater than Elvis. I think Elvis person came along at the right time, where he was a white kid that could do rock and roll or rhythm and blues or whatever name you want to call it, and the girls could swoon over him. Nat Cole got in trouble in Alabama when the women swooned over him. Got put out of town. And black people have been going out shaking their behind for centuries. And what the hell's unusual about that shaking the hips and stuff? And that's all Elvis was doing, was copying that. And he was doing our kind of music. He was doing the Willie Mae Thornton jailhouse rock. That's black music. So what the hell am I supposed to get so excited about, man? But I think all this stuff about saying he's the king and he's it's a piece of bunk. Sorry. Next question. Don't ask me no more about Elvis because you got in enough trouble as it is.
I think you covered it, though. I don't think a follow-up is necessary.
Okay, all right.
Well, here's my thought about
Before we
a lot
move
of
into the
stuff.
next thing.
No, okay. But my whole thought with why I didn't care for Taylor Swift's performance,
Mayochella.
whatever you want to call it, Cool Whip.
No, it was no whip to it. It wasn't even
cool.
cool. It was just warm temperature belt.
Okay, well, whatever. Whatever. My whole problem with it is that when you do something that's so similar, especially back to back, and it comes off, and it's not done well. Like I felt like I was looking at the performance that Beyonce did, and then her, and it just came off like very lackluster. Like that's the thing that like frustrated me. So it's just like, to me, I look at you as an artist that you didn't have enough creativity to like set aside and kind of make your own. Like that's, and then because it was so similar, it looks like you're biting off of her particular. So let's talk about that. Like when you talk about cultural appropriation, it's also like, doesn't it also have to do with the similarities? Because podcasts ago, many episodes ago, we had started mention about how people, like white people wearing cornrows. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with that per se? I'm not saying that
there's nothing wrong with it until it becomes a point when a black woman wears cornrows, then she looks ghetto. When a white woman wears, she's stylish.
But they didn't even say that.
They didn't have to say that.
But
they didn't say that.
Who's they?
Yeah, it's the question is actually who is they. I was about to say who is they? Who didn't say it? But that's what was said in like Us Magazine and all these different like publications. Like, oh, look at them, they look good. But let a sister walk in there with her natural hair, doing all of this. Oh, she looks ghetto. Can you straighten your hair or any type of situation like that?
But what I'm saying is that sounds more to me like that's media. You know, so when somebody's doing that,
I got something for you.
Do they have to sit down and say, all right, you're the white woman that's next to me with nice cornrows, nice braids? Do you have to say, oh, my friend from so-and-so or Beyonce inspired me. Do you have to specifically say that?
Well, you know what, Chris? There's two sides to that story because, and I'm going to tell you no. And I don't care who gets mad at me because you got black chicks out here who will go get a perm, straighten their hair, wear a motherfucking blonde wig, and walk down the street and wish you would say something about them and not realizing that that's only mocking a white woman. So technically it goes both ways. But to go back to what you were saying about the cultural appropriation with Taylor Swift and Beyonce, for example, I mentioned Ariana Grande earlier. I'm not a fan of hers. Ariana Grande did a song called 7 Rings. And then she did a video with 7 rings. And it wasn't until her fans pointed out that that Pink Trap House comes from 2 Chainz's album. Why are you copying 2 Chainz? And then all of a sudden it was, oh, yeah, it did come from 2 Chainz. And then she had to put him on a remix. And then they also called her out for using the same exact melody that Soulja Boy used for one of his previous songs. And then it was all then it came out, oh yeah, it was the writer of my song was inspired by that.
So it's about the similarity.
Exactly. It took no, actually the Pink Trap House is the exact same Pink Trap House to change.
Or exact.
Is that did
he had to be called out for her to acknowledge that. But when it came out that the fans said that, 2 Chainz went on his page and posted the picture of her Pink Trap House and was like, damn, is Ariana trying to Soulja Boy me? And that's when she put him on a remix. Just saying.
I agree. I mean, I don't know the whole file. I agree. Listening to what you were saying, I don't really follow that little girl with that ponytail, so I don't really know.
I like 2 Chainz, so that's why I knew about it.
I mean, I respect the brother because the brother is highly educated. I don't know. Look, there was a meme that was going around way back then talking about what Mariah has done when she was 22, and I am not a lamb, but what Mariah has done at 22 is have all these hits, this and that, whatever, and all Ariana Grande has done is managed to mispronounce her words and wear a ponytail.
Come on, ponytail with legs.
Well, and Mariah.
But anyway, this is going so far left from the actual conversation itself.
So how about this? Then let's just hit the arrow right on the bullseye. Let's look at the Kardashians with the lip implants, the butt implants, and then how they want to look like black women minus having black skin, and all of them got black men.
Are you saying that's cultural appropriation?
I'm just throwing the idea out there that this is what we look at when we see them, and it's not far from the truth.
And this is what they reverse cultural appropriation to an extent, because to counteract your argument about what black women have been doing for years as far as straightening their hair, that was what the definition to the black community based on the white community, what the actual standard of beauty was. So therefore, that's their own insecurity. You felt like you had to do that in order to fit in order to do that, or in order to be beautiful. That's what America, makes people believe, and I think that's across the world. I don't feel the correlation is the same way because we don't, I just don't feel the same. I don't feel it reverses the exact same way as us straightening our hair, because it's the fact that we can actually straighten our hair.
Well, the Kardashians, you said they all have black men, right?
The Kardashians themselves,
most of them. Oh, God, but aren't you like black by injection? So isn't it like reverse takeover? Sorry.
Mute his mic. No more for you.
Well, just going back to what PJ was saying about Ray Charles speaking on Elvis is actually true. Elvis used to go uptown, sit there, watch these black performers perform their ass off, and then go right back downtown and be like, look, this is what we're going to do. For anyone that has seen, what's the movie with Chuck Berry that Mos Def plays Chuck Berry? Is that Cadillac Records?
Is it?
Where Little Richard is in it, and you have the guy playing Little Richard, and then you have Little Richard who does a song, and then a week later the white man trying to do the same exact song. So Little Richard goes back in the studio, does it 2 times fast, and then when the white man tries to do the same thing, he gets to stuttering over himself and he can't do it. So these are the kind of things that we're kind of pointing out to say that it's been happening all along. It's just that nowadays it's taken a different turn. And the reason why it's taking a different turn is because we have interracial couples. We have a lot more mixed people. We have a lot more blacks that are into white culture and white people that are into black culture. So now it's almost like white people are calling themselves niggas. And that's not acceptable. White people will sing a song, a rap song, and will be like, yeah, my nigga, thinking that it's cool because they're listening to the song. So it's actually taken on a different life of itself compared to back in the day when you would go to a concert to watch a black person and there would be a rope down the middle of the audience where you had the black side and the white side. Or, for example, when you had Birdland, when no black person could come in to watch a black artist perform. It would only be white people. So they would come to New Jersey and perform in New Jersey so that they could be able to, perform for the black audience. So it's just taken a turn in a different way. And in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, you did have black women who were straightening their hair because the only way that they could be able to get into the workforce was if they had a certain type of look that was not being accepted if they had the kinky natural hair that we have today.
Right.
Today, it's cool to have natural hair. So that's why you got, white girls doing locks and doing braid because now it's all of a sudden cool. But let's not forget that there is a federal law on the books that says an employer cannot hire you or fire you because you have braids or locks or a natural hairstyle.
That was just put on the books.
So let's not forget that's something that exists in our day that was not necessarily there in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but it was something that was unspoken.
See, but I think that's so, again, getting back to like the actual definition of cultural appropriation, and that the key word that we all thought was in there was unacknowledging. So I think the issue is like, I see like two sides of it. I see like people get upset when they see somebody who is outside of a specific race or culture doing something that has traditionally belonged to or was invented by another culture, aka white people doing things that are traditionally like black things.
Shout out to Rachel Dolezal.
But I think that
I done forgot about her.
So, and let's keep it that way.
Disregard.
But I think that like at this point, I think the waters are so muddied because for so long the struggle was to have black people be acknowledged in the arts, in fashion, in culture, and because we weren't acknowledged in the mainstream thing of things, that's why we have such a strong sense of what black culture is because we've had to, like invent like all of these things, cornrows and, just black fashion and, black music and all these things, we made for ourselves because like we wanted to be, we needed to have them. And because at the end of the day, the biggest issue was that there was segregation and there was unacknowledgement. Again, that's the key word in cultural appropriation. But now that segregation is legally, been disbarred, even though it still happens illegally, but whatever. I think we're still thinking in these silos that only specific people can do specific things. But if the idea is for all of us to be blended, and if the idea is for the United States to be this melting pot of cultures and for everybody to experience cultures, I think that's where a lot of these hot button issues and hot button feelings are coming from. But I guess my thought on it is, it's like, well, why can't, Taylor Swift do, what she did? She can. She absolutely can.
Of course, everybody can.
But the issue is that she didn't acknowledge where she didn't cite her source.
Exactly. You're saying the same thing that I just said, but in a different way, because it's a melting pot today. So things are different, and it's taking a different turn because you have people mixing races more than they did back in the day. So it was more of a segregation. Today, you have blended families where it's black, white, Asian, and Spanish all in one family. So they don't understand when it's like, well, why do you have to have this to yourself as a black person? Why can't it be all of us in inclusion? So that's why what I mean is like it's just taken on a different turn. I have family that my brother has children by a Spanish girl and a white girl. And you can't tell his kids that they're not black, even though their mothers aren't.
but okay. So this goes back to the issue. Like, to even add to that, my brother himself, he's married to a girl who's half German and then half Native American, Blackish. And so Ava and the rest of my nieces and nephew are being raised, obviously, because you're supposed to be raised whatever your culture is, and I get that melting pot. I get that change. I would love for us all to finally come together and say, you know what, I'm of this, but I love your hair. How could I do that to my hair? Or I love this music. Or, you know what, let me show you what my take on is of Mexican food, and then completely change it and make it out my own. We get mad when somebody puts raisins in potato salad because that's culturally what, we
They don't belong.
what we don't do. But everybody makes potato salad their own kind of way, so everybody, and this is why I always keep saying, like, this is music. I'm not even talking about like the music itself. Is like I said, it's a teetering line, because people can do that to an extent if you're really paying homage to something that you've experienced, something that you've seen, something that that is true to who you are. That's the main part about cultural appropriation to me. If it is true to who you are, then you're appropriating your own culture, regardless of what your ethnic background is or anything else like that. I know it sometimes may sound like it's a little contradictory, but this goes back to the whole Justin Timberlake thing, and even Elvis to an extent, because he was from that era. He was from Nashville, Tennessee, or wherever he was from in Tennessee. But at the same time, he's not the one. He was getting all this credit, and all this praise for doing what has already been done, and none of our brothers were getting any credit for it.
But so that's the issue, is when you're blatantly stealing something from another culture and claiming it to be your own. So that's the biggest, that's the issue. That is what cultural appropriation is, just like what you read. It's the unacknowledging part of it. So, but I think like what the issue is, and I think that something that you and I were saying, Red, was whose responsibility is it to say, like, I think people are, again, I know this whole thing isn't supposed to be about Taylor Swift and Beyonce, but that's the example that we're using. But why is it her responsibility to say, oh, hey, I, saw Beyonce do this, so I wanted to do it too?
I wouldn't say it's her. I mean, it's her responsibility.
But that's what people are upset with her about. It's because she didn't give Beyonce credit.
It is her responsibility. She's representing this. This is her art. This is what she's putting out as saying that.
But why couldn't she say, why wasn't it just, because I think the thing that you were saying before was if it's part of who you are and it's part of your culture, then you're not appropriating that you're doing it. But why wasn't it just like, man, wouldn't it be cool if da-da-da-da, and then, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Then do it the way that it's supposed to be done for you. Do it that.
But why? That's the thing for you. Again, we're putting people in silos. This is your lane. Stay in your lane and do your thing.
I already mentioned when Janet Jackson did a certain song that she cited that it came from the Asian culture and that she wanted to be able to.
But marching bands aren't a black people thing.
It's not a black people thing, and it's not a black people thing at all. But again, as we said before, Homecoming just came out, and Coachella was the year prior.
And this is a separate issue, because this is just bad decisions on her marketing team.
Completely. And then, at the same time, I said before that this isn't the first time that Beyonce has used marching bands, because they've done it for Lose My Breath, because that is a marching band song everywhere they performed, even when she performed it on the Super Bowl. When she did Formation, there was some marching bands in the back, so that it's. And that's also from where she comes from. Even when you watch Homecoming, she talks about these HBCUs and going to these what's the word? These games. What's the word? The games.
The games. Football games.
The football.
The games. She goes, the sports. The ball. Where you throw it. Go sports.
And goal. She went
touchdown.
Stop. She went to these games. She went to these games, and this is something that she experienced. Now, again, I went to a PWI. You went to a PWI.
And we had marching bands.
We did have marching bands.
We had performances.
And they were very sour, sad, and dry. Not
to you.
To me. And
again, it's all about interpretation.
Okay.
Because look, there and then this is the other thing that I think that we should get into, because Beyonce did it, and she did it well, and she made it a standout, memorable performance. And that's why I think people are so upset with Taylor Swift, is because like if you gonna do, but at the same time too, Beyonce, I bet she's not worried about it at all. Because if you're gonna, my whole mentality around things is, if you're gonna do it, then you're gonna do it the way that you want to do it. Other people might try to do it too, but they can't do it like how you do it. You have your own sense of everything that you bring to whatever it is that you're doing, artistically, in business, in work and religion, whatever the field is. You bring your own flavor and your own spice to it. Other people might try to do things that are similar, but they're never going to do it the way that you do it. But I think what we're starting to get into is this conversation about like, okay, well, where's the difference? It sounds like we're starting to like try to figure out like, what is the difference between cultural appropriation and just artistic expression? Like, who's to say that her inspiration, I mean, it's obvious to us, and we can draw our own conclusions, that she was really inspired by Mayochella. Okay. I think that is the general tone in the room. But who's to say that that's really what it was? Who's to say that she just didn't like, man, marching bands are cool, I'm gonna have a marching band in my performance?
Yeah, she could have done that later.
She could
timing, have. Right. No, and that's one of the arguments.
I even think because Beyonce's performance was so iconic, because Mayochella was so iconic, even if Taylor Swift did this 10 years from now, people are still going to be like, she got that from Beyonce. Because Beyonce did it so well.
But not only just because she did it so well. All right, shout out to that deal. But not only because she did it so well, but because when Beyonce dances, when Ciara dances, when anybody dances, they always try to compare anybody else to whoever. Oh, Beyonce dances like Janet. Then Beyonce doesn't dance like Janet. Then Janet dances like whoever. And Janet doesn't dance like whoever. You know, if you do it true to who you are, if you do whatever you're trained to do, no matter what it is, to your core, then that's you.
Then your expression is going to come out of it.
And that's natural. Like, you know, and I did like
Donald Glover. Sorry.
And the way he dances, because that is unique to him.
I mean, you know, but he got money now. So I mean, and that's also the other thing. So it's like it's where the money seems to money comes to anybody, like the white people who steal from us, who take our things, who constantly, whether it's the movies that we write, whether it's the actors that are in there, whether it's our walk, our talk, our bodies, the hair, you know, the music. Did I say music already? I think I said music, but I'm gonna say it again. The music, you know, the food, you know, it's
everything.
And that's the same thing. Like, look, pause the same argument. Beyonce has a whole like EP of Irreplaceable in Spanish. So is she culturally appropriating Hispanic culture? No. Why? Because she acknowledged it and she said, I don't speak Spanish, but you know, I love the way this sounds in Spanish and I love to sing in Spanish and I want to learn it. And she admitted it. So she wasn't appropriating their culture, she was paying homage to it.
Right.
You know.
And that's the main point that I wanted us to get across today, was this the actual definition of what cultural appropriation is. It's the unacknowledging part of it.
So then do you feel that Bruno appropriates?
Does he? I honestly don't know enough about anybody to say that they do anything. Like, for me, honestly, at the end of the day, it's about, do I like it? Yes or no?
Right.
And that's it. Like, I don't dig deeper into it than that. But I don't know. Does he say that he's inspired by, you know, Motown? And then by definition, it's not cultural appropriation, because the main keyword in cultural appropriation is unacknowledging.
Well, I'm just reading this article right now, and one of the things that do stand out, and I kind of agree with as well, is it says, but herein lies the problem. It's when culturally significant items are appropriated for fashion rather than celebration of culture. So then it's also a matter of like how specific the item that's being showcased, that whoever uses in their art. So like you said before, marching bands are not particularly significant. Like they are significant in Black culture, but are bands and drummers and things like that, are they significant, just to us? Maybe they're different.
I mean, they're definitely not, because I went to a Black high school and a white high school.
Mm.
So.
And I was just gonna say, Red, that reminds me of when Gucci had the hoodie that had the blackface, like when they did the blackface hoodie, and then when the other designer did like the noose around the neck, like it was some type of cultural, like it was some type of fashion, and you had models walking down the runway with this stuff on.
Right, and that was very, very specific, and it was two things. It was not only it's very specific, but it was also very offensive because of what it means to us. So, like once again, when you go into like music, I know how strongly you feel, PJ, about music. I don't know if I necessarily feel the same way. Yes, music is big to me, but I don't know if I necessarily feel the same way of like, oh, she can't do this and oh, she can't do that.
I didn't say she couldn't.
No,
she can.
Okay, but in the bubble of cultural appropriation.
Bubble.
That's what I mean.
Well, what it boils down to is the generations have changed, because if we ask our parents and our parents' parents these same questions, they're going to have a different answer than we are. And because of the mixing of America having so many different cultures and so many different races in America, and everybody's blending to be blended families, like Alicia Keys says, we have a different opinion about it. So this is why we can sit back and listen to Eminem and be like, yo, Eminem is killing that verse. But like we mentioned Justin Timberlake, we're fans of Justin Timberlake. My dad, he can't stand him. He thinks he's mocking black men and he doesn't like it. Period. And he says that often. As soon as Justin Timberlake comes on TV, he's like, turn channel or I'm walking away. And I understand, because from his generation, he saw where there was a separatism in the music. For us, it's all together. It's all one. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take on a different opinion than those that came before us.
Just to kind of piggyback off of like what PJ said, I think what makes this so infuriating, and I think why it becomes such a big topic, is because of the fact that we've had so much taken from us, and the fact that it was done by a white female. Mm-hmm. So we look at it like, oh, she's going to take that, and now they're going to either do one or two things, either water it down or like, but that's what that is. And I think that's why it becomes such a big thing, because we're afraid that people are going to take the credit for what we have worked so hard for, mm-hmm. and just kind of mm-hmm. run with it.
And
with that, what do you guys think about the theme for the Met Gala this year?
Okay, so I have a lot to say about the theme for the Met Gala.
Do you think it was cultural appropriation?
Actually, I completely do.
And I agree, because...
And the only person who got it was Lena Waithe and Billy Porter.
Yes.
Because the purpose of camp itself was built by gay drag queens.
Black drag queens.
Yes.
And her jacket, the back of it said, Black drag queens invented camp.
Yeah, and that's part of our culture as in the queer community. Yes. And then it would have been wonderful if they would have paid homage to that, but they also translated it into whatever fit for them. So part of it's
I don't even think that it's like they need to pay homage to it. Like, I think it was just, again, it's about acknowledging where it came from. It's the acknowledging part. And again, I know I'm harping on this, but I'm harping on this because I think that so often people jump to just the emotions of it and are so quick to claim cultural appropriation for things that aren't actually cultural appropriation. But in this case, it is exactly what it is. It is cultural appropriation because this came from a black culture, black drag queen culture, as she said on her jacket. And the whole event went over and nobody acknowledged where this came from.
That was the only picture I liked out of every picture I've seen.
And I can appreciate you just making it just simple. I think it is, but I think when we sit down and we try and get into the mix of it, it gets really lost, and people go, I don't want to well, then how do I say it, and who do I say it to? It just becomes way too so
here's one of the biggest cultural appropriators of this generation was Miley Cyrus. how she just all of a sudden went from country to hip hop or whatever you want to call
And
that.
so why are you saying it's cultural appropriation?
Well, because they coined her as using the phrase twerking, but
Who is they? That's they.
White people.
That's
Yeah,
they.
but
But that's they. That's not
That
her.
goes back to what I was originally saying. That's media. That's not
But
necessarily.
she
fair to
also
her.
agreed with that.
She agreed.
She said that she invented the term.
I didn't say she said she invented it, but she went along with it.
How did she go along with it?
By not saying I've seen this dance or I've seen this before, watching this video, watching this culture, watching Jamaican styles from back, watching old African videos. We've been doing that same move for years, but as soon as she did, it became poof, big mainstream. So all of a sudden now twerking is a word. Twerking exists now in the fucking dictionary when it never really happened before. But nobody said anything about the jerk that we used to do, or the chicken, or I said this before, and I know these are completely different dances to the twerking or whatever, right? Food, right? This meal is heavy, yo. This is a heavy meal that we intended it to be. And I was searching for it, and I really wish that there was a way you can all see it. And I mentioned this before. I'm not sure which episode. I think it was the one we were talking about this in the way you brought it up, about some appropriation we were talking about before. I forgot. You brought it up in this conversation. Fast forward. There's this. I watched this documentary that was called "Everything Remains Raw," and in that documentary went from all the way back in the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, how all the dances. This is during the blackface era. All the dances that are even going on now are just obviously just recycled portions of what we were doing from way back when, but we weren't getting acknowledgement from it. Even Michael Jackson's moonwalk was taken from someone else, and hands up when I just said Michael Jackson. I just said that just because you should don't get mad at me.
That ain't for me to get mad at.
Yes, for growth.
Speak your opinion.
But
all I said is, would you put your nephew in the bed? Would you put your nephew in the bed?
Right.
That's all I said.
Right. But but it's an example, and it's unfortunately it's no longer available to for people to view. So I saw this in the class, and then it was on YouTube for a long time, and all those that got pulled, and it was just an excellent documentary of everything from this is before Elvis, and just all the different dances that we used to do, that all of a sudden when the bunny hop and the twist and all the other stuff, the twist was the only one that we did that during that time, don't quote me correctly, but please partially quote me correctly, was the one that technically crossed over, because that was part of our dance, and white people started doing it, but then it was too much of a gyrating sexual type of situation, so they tried to make it a little bit more funny, and he was actually making fun. And Checkers, he didn't actually come up with the actual dance. It was somebody else before him that he was mocking. That's how that actually became a thing. But the idea that I had when I wanted us to have this conversation wasn't really just to bash the devil, but it was more so to really bring forth the idea of understanding what cultural appropriation is. Now, even though I initially got all sensitive when all three of y'all, of course, again, this is what we do here.
This is why we have these conversations, because, like you said, when you said that, I wanted to have this conversation because I really wanted to get people to really understand what cultural appropriation is, and that's why I'm so stuck on the definition of it, and that's why I wanted to continue to point out, like when you and Yushi were saying that if she had just cited her source, then it wouldn't have been this cultural appropriation problem.
Yeah.
And as I said, Adele did, and no one says nothing about Adele. We just love Adele.
I mean, Adele, I don't love Adele. I like Adele.
But that's you.
Who is we?
And some people love Taylor Swift. I mean, it's all exactly. It's all across. I think the thing is, at the end of the day, is for people to. I think people are getting so upset about people, quote unquote, not staying in their lane. because kind of what you were saying before is like you were saying if it's not of you and it's not of your culture, then and it's not embodying who you are and your experience and your kind of thing, then you have less leeway to do those things. Whereas I don't necessarily think that way. I think that people at the end of the day, people should be able to do whatever they want. I don't want people to feel like they have to be in specific silos because of where they grew up or how they grew up or what their background is or what they have access to. I think people should be able to sample everything that's on the table. And the thing to keep it from not being cultural appropriation is to make sure you acknowledge where you're getting your inspiration from.
Because
and that's pretty much my
because there are a lot of people that are out there that are just all like, why you got to get into rap? You got country. Or they'll say stuff
why
like
can't
that.
you get into rap? Why can't you get into country?
This is coming from the same, not the same people, but how about this? This whole situation with Beyonce and Taylor Swift, Beyonce is from Houston. Lemonade had an actual country song that is actually home to her. And Daddy Lessons was one of my favorite songs on that album because it sounds different. Usually that's why I like a song, especially from Beyonce, because it doesn't sound like everything else that's on the album. And I love Daddy Lessons, and I love it when she did it with the Dixie Chicks. But they gave her so much flack for it because this isn't country, because you're a black woman. Black people don't sing country.
It's the same issue with Lil Nas right now with his song.
Lil Nas
Gonna
X.
take my horse to the Old Town Road. You have heard this song.
No, I don't listen to the radio. You know, I'm
It's
stuck in my
still
own
number
playlist.
one.
I'm still in my own playlist.
So
They
they
pulled it from the country chart because
Because
they
it's
said
not
it wasn't a
country.
country song. So Billy Ray Cyrus, Miley Cyrus's dad, jumped on it to do the remix,
remix.
and they still didn't put it back on the country track. But it's still number one in the country.
And that's the same thing that happened with Daddy Lessons. Like that's, you know, when she put on it and she went on the CMAs to perform this, and then I don't know if you watched it, but a lot of people who just are Beyonce fans and you saw how the people in the crowd was just not, there was nobody really clapping. Like there was a few,
weren't.
you know, and they were just so angry. And it's just like, so you can appropriate our culture, but a black woman can't, who is from Texas, who has listened to country music, who has gone to rodeos, who has actually said these things. You know, this is part of things that she's done. Her and Solange, they've talked about this. Solange's last album, we're not from Houston, so we can't really relate to it, you know, to an extent, unless you're just trying to go to sleep and vibe and just, you know, smoke and just chill and just relax and just. But yeah, so.
But isn't that like the issue though? That's the same issue that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the inspiration from that is the same issue that you're having with Jennifer Lopez doing Motown, is because she doesn't traditionally look like somebody who should be performing Motown.
No, not look
and again,
like, no.
or is just embody somebody who should be. What he's saying right now with how people felt some type of way about Beyonce singing country, it's because people aren't used to somebody who is like her or looks like her or has her background or whatever singing something that is specifically that seems to be like in a different silo than what people think that she belongs in. So it goes like both ways.
That were very popular. It's this generation who's not used to that.
And I actually love country music.
I'm sure that there are people saying like the same thing. Like I just
Hootie and the Bluefish and Hootie and the Blowfish and Tracy Chapman is this generation, because Hootie and the Blowfish was one of the biggest things out there. Darius
Tracy Chapman is folk music.
Yeah, but she was big in the country market.
She wasn't because there was no place to really actually put her as a black woman. And I'm a huge Tracy Chapman fan from back in the day.
Darius was straight country.
Yeah, he was actually, and he got so much.
He's a black man, but he was huge in the country market. White folks loved him.
No, yeah, well, they only, you know, when it came down to Darius Rucker being by himself, it wasn't as strong when he was with Hootie because he had all these 6 white men behind him.
But what I'm saying is that this generation, they don't. That's a different generation. That's why they're looking at Beyonce like, what is she doing? That's like when Lemonade came out. Everybody was like, oh my God, Beyonce's black now? Like, what is this? And people were like giving Lemonade, slack. I'm just like, what is going on?
But at the same time, with that argument, and I don't think it's the fact that Beyonce's black now. It's just the fact that before then she didn't celebrate her blackness in people's standards or people like what they would picture her to be, because she was just very picture perfect, but she explained why, you know, and that's why I've learned to respect her even more so beyond her her business, because that businesswoman, she gets all the
got it
respect.
together.
She's got everything. Like I ain't got nothing to say with her when it comes to her and her coin. But when it came to her and her expression of music, it took Lemonade and maybe a few songs before that, like a few here and there, just really small. But like the inspirational ones, nothing that's like, okay, sister. Like I didn't feel, and this is just me. This is just PJ saying. And if any of y'all want to sting me, go right on ahead. You can come to my personal Instagram and do it. Don't do it on Highly Melanated, because the views here expressed today are not of Highly Melanated. They are of PJ Ryan. My Instagram is Phil Nominal. If you want to reach out to me, that's perfectly fine. Come find me. I'll put my location.
Look, stop encouraging people to come get you.
I'll be the first one there.
But yeah, so I mean, I think
that's for me, it's really about, like I said, I feel like everything should be, for so long, the issue, and still is, the issue and the argument was that people couldn't have a seat at the mainstream table. So everybody kind of had to go off and do their own thing on the side. And now that those side hustles are getting such attention and such garnership, that people who are at that main table are trying to get in on all of the benefits and all of the hype and all the fame and whatnot. Again, going back to this Taylor Swift Beyonce thing, because Baychella was so iconic and it's so hot right now, and it was a year ago, and now again because of the Netflix special, it's a hot imagery right now. And that's what happens in just marketing and media. If something is hot fire right now, everybody has to try to get a piece of it. And that's essentially what happens. And the issue here is that if that was the inspiration for her performance and that she didn't cite her source for it, that's why people are claiming cultural appropriation for it. I'm about to go into my final thoughts, so I'm going to stop. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm hungry.
Okay.
I'm starving.
Oh, empanadas.
All right.
Oh my God, that truck makes tacos. They were so good, and
it's Tuesday.
Go ahead, continue.
No, I'm at this point. I think we're ready to move into just final thoughts.
I think yeah.
So I still want some more crab though, because it was so good. But now I got to think about dessert. So I don't know. You guys help me out. What's a traditional dessert to have after a crab boil?
That hasn't been culturally appropriated?
Oh, Lord Jesus. Cite your source.
Oh, my God.
Cite your source. Let's just, I don't.
Because we all get to say one now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You know what? Okay, you know what? I'm going to just take it completely left. Completely left. This has nothing to do with the meal at all. But recently, I just rediscovered my love for Pop-Tarts. I used to have Pop-Tarts all the time when I was a kid. And for years, I hadn't had them in years, and I just started eating them again.
Fancy toasted strudels.
Oh, excuse me. Those were the fancy ones. So we was a Pop-Tarts family growing up. So, because we talked so much about pop culture today. That's not how I added that in.
Oh my God, that flow.
For our final thoughts, if everybody could go around and say what their favorite Pop-Tart and or toaster strudel.
No, I have a favorite Pop-Tart.
Oh, okay, cool. Then you on the bandwagon. What your favorite Pop-Tart flavor was, and then just give us your final thoughts.
Red.
Because I was looking at stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like an inside joke between me and my dad. I sent him a picture of a Pop-Tarts box, but it's not your traditional Pop-Tarts box. Read that for me. What flavor is that?
Ground beef.
Ground beef.
So
that's not real.
No, it's not real. It's made. Well, maybe it will be.
No, it won't.
No.
I will protest.
Okay.
Where is the petition?
No. It was a joke that was a meme that was going on around the internet. Ground beef flavor Pop-Tarts, but me and my dad get kicks out of like finding stupid shit like that. But I don't think I have a favorite flavor. I think I'll just go with a regular old strawberry frosted Pop-Tart. And my final thought, I think my final thought is that if you guys ever make it big, whoever you guys are out there, even the guys, even in here in this room, make sure that you pay homage. The end. I think that'll end everything. Because it is a very it's a hot topic. It's a very touchy topic because
is it a hot topic like a hot pocket and
like,
a Pop-Tart? Hot pocket. Ooh, that's a new dessert. Go ahead.
A hot pocket is a dessert.
I thought it was an
Don't judge
after-school
me.
snack.
Don't judge
Let me
me.
find
You
out.
don't know
You frosted covered pepperoni.
What you gonna have for dessert? More dinner.
Right.
Go ahead.
No. But no, I think pay homage, and also just, just kind of like do your research. Just kind of like go into, what you would. Like the different cultures that you learn, the different things that you pick up. Just like it's all about just learning and growing from that. It's not about just just doing things. I think that's why everybody gets so upset. And that's my final thought. I actually lost my train of thought. You can cut that out, but that's why
I may keep it in.
All right, keep it in and keep my beef flavored Pop-Tarts in there too.
No, you can have that.
That's what I get you.
So my favorite Pop-Tarts, Lord Jesus, I'm tired. My favorite Pop-Tart flavor is cookies and cream because it tastes like an Oreo. Trust me when I say it's absolutely delicious.
If that isn't the most culturally appropriated
No, it's not because I'm paying acknowledgement to the Oreo. Bam.
The Oreo is the culture. It's the white on top of it's the black on top of the white.
Again, that's not cultural appropriation. Remember, and that just leads me into my final thought. So thank you. When we're talking about such hot button topics and such emotional issues, I really want to challenge people to make sure that you keep your head and not play off of emotions. Because, yes, you want to use emotions to make your argument, but you want to make sure that you're understanding what you're making your argument for. People are so quick to claim cultural appropriation for things that are not actually cultural appropriation. And as we discussed today, the key term in cultural appropriation is when something comes unacknowledged. So often people want to get very emotional and play off of the emotions, but we have to make sure that we take a moment to take a step back and really understand what it is that we're getting emotional about and put it in the right definition, circumstances, whatever you want to call it. So today we talked so much about cultural appropriation, but I think until we actually really understood what the definition of cultural appropriation is, that's when we can really understand when it is actually happening. And as PJ said before, the definition of cultural appropriation is
the unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of the cultures, customs, practices, and ideas of one people or society by members of another, and typically by a more dominant people or society.
Exactly. So the thing is when it goes unacknowledged and when it's inappropriately adopted, that's the cultural appropriation part of it. I think so often people are just like, oh, white people can't do this because it's a black people thing, or black people can't do this because it's a Spanish thing, this, that, and the third, whatever. People want to try to keep people in these silos, and I really want us to just break out of that. And like I said before, America is supposed to be this melting pot of cultures, and it's supposed to be so diverse that basically everybody can, dip their foot in everything as long as they are acknowledging and not inappropriately adopting things. There we go.
Yes.
So my Pop-Tart of favor is actually the s'more. S'mores are king. I only ate s'mores. They had to be lightly toasted, and I did not eat the crust. The crust went straight in the garbage.
What?
Absolutely.
I don't like the crust either.
What?
I don't like that. That's why I like strudels.
That's because you put them in the toaster. You have to put them in the microwave.
No.
No, what?
You put it in the microwave. It's get all gummy.
Microwave.
Go ahead.
Soulja
Don't.
Boy face. But yeah, I was a s'mores fan. And my final thought is this: we are the human race, and as a human race, we're made up of different cultures, different races, different religions, and as a human race, we combine, we mix with each other, and most importantly, we are we are spiritual beings living a human experience. And as a spiritual being living a human experience, express yourself fully in the way in which you feel is best for you. Just make sure you're not disrespecting or causing harm to the next person, culture, or race while you're doing so. With that being said, wash your chicken. It's disgusting.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Hot sauce is king.
And Beyonce is
mayonnaise is good as long as it's
Hellman's.
And and I really wanted to throw in there, even though we are the human race and there's so much racism between us, until we get rid of the idea or this whole thing that exists called white privilege, we're not going to be able to accept each other and move past this, because a lot of the schisms and isms that we have between each other is born from white privilege and white supremacy, and until we get rid of that, we'll always have these bias against each other. So just be who you are, live your life to the fullest, and just not disrespect another culture or person while you're in the midst of doing that, and wash your chicken.
You was really stressing that wash chicken.
I mean, you really need to.
There was a tweet recently from the CDC that says that you don't have to wash your chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And all the comments were like, "You don't wash your chicken." All the black folk was like,
if I find out any of my friends don't wash their chicken, I'm defriending you.
All the black folk was like, "You don't wash your chicken." Everybody else was like, "We never washed our chicken." Like, what?
That's why I don't, So, my final thought, actually, thank you, Yush, for leading that off into this. I'm gonna take a script out of your book, and go completely off topic.
Yay!
Monday night, Dallas News released the actual cell phone footage of Sandra Bland. And I kind of really wanted to talk about this at some point. The feelings is still very, 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 very raw. And, you know, just as you said, Yushi, I get really choked up whenever we talk about stuff like this. It's important that we actually start really treating each other like human beings, and respect each other. Watching that video, and we already knew what it was. We already knew the white supremacy role that played in that. We already knew that she wasn't suicidal. We already knew that there was something that was going on. Because Cliff just popped up, so we already knew that there was this underlining issue of pain and, from the air quotations, white community about a black woman doing so much, standing up for herself and speaking her truth. I'm probably drifting off of a topic here from what I was initially going to say, because it really hurts me every single time I think about all the names that we have to never forget their names. But as Yushi said, we are all human. Say that again, how you said it, Yushi?
That we're humans having that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that we all have to respect each other, race, culture, and religion, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so
but we are spiritual beings.
Yeah, so all of this ties in together. So, to bring it back to the conversation that we were having, just as Blair actually really, really helped me point out that it's really about the acknowledgement and just paying respect and giving homage to where it's due. So, yeah.
Wash your chicken.
And
Ride it home.
And to answer your question, my favorite Pop-Tart was an unfamiliar and unfavorite, which is the brown sugar one.
Oh, that's cute.
Brown sugar one was good. I like that one.
I used to like that.
So I did like that, and I would put it in the toaster oven and crush it up and put it over ice cream.
Ooh, vanilla ice cream?
Only vanilla.
That's slamming.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Look at you. You having ideas.
Look at you both when they go to Target before you go home tonight.
Well.
On that note, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to another episode of Highly Melanated. Yes, this has been different from a lot of those, and we've had, we respect having guests on, but at the same time, we love having these actual conversations where we can actually even check each other when we do see or we have different opinions. We all don't have to agree, and you don't have to agree with your friends with everything that they say, but it's just a level of respect when it comes into a conversation. We all need to have respect when we're talking to each other. So, that's another PJ-ism. That's my PJ-ism for tonight.
Drop it.
Drop my PJ.
Dun, 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 dun.
The first PJ-ism of Highly Melanated. We all really need to respect each other no matter where you come from or what your point you're trying to get across. So on that note,
R-E-S-P-C-T.
Find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-C-T.
take care, TCP.
Suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me.
Oh, a little respect.
As always, guys, you can follow us on social media, which is Highly Melanated Podcast. On Instagram, you can email us at highlymelanatedpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, which is H_melanatedpod. And yeah, so as always, guys, peace, love, and
Wash your chicken.
That's right.
Bleep, 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 bleep. That's all, folks.
good night, guys.